He was shot in the face. The bullet went through his skull and took out his left eye. Doctors said he'd never fight again. He was back on the battlefield in 6 weeks. He was shot through the skull again, survived. Shot in the ankle, survived. Shot in the leg, survived. Shot in the hip, survived. Shot in the ear. His ear was hanging by a thread, so you know what he did? He ripped it off himself, didn't even go to the hospital, just tore it off and kept fighting. This man survived a plane crash, escaped from multiple POW camps, lost his hand and still fought in hand-to-hand combat, was declared dead more times than he could count. And when he finally died at age 83, it wasn't from any of his war injuries. He died peacefully in his sleep. His name was Adrian Carton de Wiart, and this is the most absolutely insane survival story in military history. I'm not exaggerating. This actually happened. Every word of it is true. Before we get into this wild story, if you love hearing about extraordinary people who defied all odds, you need to subscribe to Timeless English Talks right now. We uncover the most incredible true stories that sound too crazy to be real. Hit that subscribe button because I promise you, this channel will blow your mind every single time. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Adrian Carton de Wiart is born in 1880 in Brussels, Belgium, but his family moves to England when he's young, and he grows up as basically a British kid. Now, from the start, Adrian is different. He's fearless, reckless even. While other kids are playing safe games, Adrian is looking for danger, for adventure, for a fight. When he's 19 years old, the Second Boer War breaks out in South Africa. It's 1899. Britain is fighting Dutch settlers in South Africa, and Adrian sees his chance. He lies about his age, drops out of Oxford University, and joins the British Army. His parents are furious, but Adrian doesn't care. He wants to fight. He gets sent to South Africa, and almost immediately he gets shot, twice, once in the stomach, once in the groin. Most soldiers would be done, sent home, medical discharge, but not Adrian. He recovers and goes right back to fighting. This is the pattern that will define his entire life. Get injured, recover, go back for more. It's like pain and injury don't register for him the same way they do for normal people. After the Boer War ends, Adrian stays in the military, joins the British Army officially, and when World War I breaks out in 1914, Adrian is ready. More than ready. He's excited. He volunteers for the most dangerous assignments, gets sent to the Western Front, and that's where things get truly insane. In 1915, Adrian is fighting in the Battle of Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in human history. Hundreds of thousands of men dying in the trenches, and Adrian is right there in the thick of it. He's leading charges, throwing grenades, fighting hand to hand, and then he gets shot in the face. The bullet goes through his skull, behind his left eye, takes the eye completely out. He's bleeding everywhere. His men think he's dead. They're ready to leave his body, but Adrian gets up. He's still conscious, still talking, and he walks himself to the medical tent. The doctors are shocked. How is this man not dead? How is he even walking? They patch him up as best they can, tell him he's done fighting. He needs to recover, maybe retire. But 6 weeks later, Adrian is back on the front lines with an eye patch, fighting like nothing happened. His superiors try to send him to safer positions, desk jobs, command positions away from the fighting, but Adrian refuses. He wants to be where the action is, where the danger is. It's like he's addicted to it. Over the course of World War I, Adrian gets shot 8 more times. Each time, people think he's done. Each time, he comes back. He gets shot in the ankle, comes back. Shot in the leg, comes back. Shot in the hip, comes back. At one point, he's in a battle and a shell explodes near him. Shrapnel rips through his hand. His left hand is mangled, barely attached. The doctors say they need to amputate. Adrian says, fine, do it. They cut off his hand, and as soon as he's recovered, he's back in combat, fighting with one hand, one eye, still charging into battle like he's invincible. His soldiers start calling him the man who cannot be killed.
Enemy soldiers hear stories about him, the British officer with one eye and one hand who just won't die. He becomes a legend, a myth. Some soldiers think he's blessed, others think he's cursed. Adrian, he just thinks he's lucky. But here's what makes him even more incredible. He's not just surviving, he's winning. He's an effective commander. His men love him because he never asks them to do anything he won't do himself. He leads from the front, takes the biggest risks, and somehow his units succeed. He wins battles, completes missions, gets promoted again and again. By the end of World War I, Adrian has been shot 9 times, survived multiple explosions, lost an eye and a hand, and earned the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest military honor. Most people would retire, enjoy peace, maybe write a memoir, but not Adrian. When World War II breaks out in 1939, Adrian is 59 years old. He immediately volunteers to fight, again. The British government is like, you're 59, one eye, one hand, been shot 9 times, maybe sit this one out. Adrian basically tells them to shut up and give him a command. So they do. They send him to Norway to fight the Germans. Adrian leads British forces in Norway, and once again, he's fearless, charging into battle, making impossible decisions. And then disaster strikes, not in the way you'd expect. Adrian's plane crashes. He's flying to a different command post and the plane goes down. Everyone on board is injured or killed. Adrian walks away from the wreckage, barely hurt. At this point, it's just absurd. How many times can one man cheat death? But then, in 1941, Adrian gets captured. The Germans capture him in North Africa and send him to a POW camp in Italy. Now, most prisoners of war try to survive, keep their heads down, wait for the war to end. Adrian, he immediately starts planning an escape. Remember, he's 61 years old, one eye, one hand, been shot 9 times. Most people his age are thinking about retirement. Adrian's thinking about how to tunnel out of a prison camp. He escapes, gets caught, escapes again, gets caught again. He tries to escape 5 times. The Italians move him to maximum security prison. They're like, how do we keep this old one-eyed man from escaping? They put extra guards on him, lock him in a secure cell, and Adrian keeps trying. The guards are baffled. This man is in his 60s. He should be grateful to be alive, grateful to be safe in a prison instead of on a battlefield. But Adrian sees prison as just another challenge to overcome, another fight to win. He finally stays in the POW camp for the rest of the war, not because he stops trying to escape, but because the Italians literally won't let him out of their sight. When the war ends in 1945, Adrian is released. He's 65 years old. Most people at 65 are retiring, playing with grandkids, relaxing. What does Adrian do? He goes to China, gets involved in the Chinese Civil War, fights there for a few more years, because apparently 2 world wars and a POW camp weren't enough excitement. Adrian finally retires in his 70s, goes to live in Ireland, writes his memoirs, which have one of the best opening lines in autobiography history. He writes, "Frankly, I had enjoyed the war." Who says that? Who fights in 3 wars, gets shot 9 times, loses an eye and a hand, survives a plane crash, escapes from POW camps, and says, yeah, I enjoyed that? Adrian Carton de Wiart, that's who. He lives peacefully in Ireland for his final years, goes hunting, fishes, tells stories to anyone who'll listen, and in 1963, at the age of 83, he dies in his sleep, peacefully. No bullets, no explosions, just old age. Think about that. This man survived being shot in the face, in the skull, in the ankle, in the leg, in the hip, in the ear, survived losing an eye and hand, survived a plane crash, survived 5 escape attempts from a POW camp, and what finally gets him? Nothing. He dies of old age in his bed. It's almost anticlimactic, like death itself finally just gave up and waited for him to die on his own terms. So, what's the lesson here? Why am I telling you about a crazy, one-eyed soldier from 100 years ago? Because Adrian Carton de Wiart teaches us something vital about human resilience, about refusing to quit, about getting back up no matter how many times you get knocked down. Yeah, most of us will never face bullets or lose body parts or survive plane crashes, but we all face our own battles. Maybe it's a career that keeps rejecting you. Maybe it's a dream that seems impossible. Maybe it's a challenge that's beaten you down so many times you're thinking about quitting. Adrian got shot in the face and came back in 6 weeks. He lost his hand and kept fighting. He got captured and immediately started planning his escape. He didn't know how to quit, didn't know how to give up. The word impossible just wasn't in his vocabulary. And yeah, maybe he was a little crazy, maybe he was reckless, maybe he had a death wish, or maybe he just understood something that most people don't. You're a lot stronger than you think you are. You can survive a lot more than you believe, and the only way to find out what you're truly capable of is to keep pushing when everything in you wants to stop. Look, I'm not saying you should rip your own ear off or fight with one hand, but I am saying this: whatever you're facing right now, whatever challenge has you feeling defeated, whatever obstacle seems too big to overcome, you're tougher than you think you are. You can take more hits than you